Hello everyone, thank you for asking me to lead your worship once again this morning. Just to say Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and look forward to the new year. And your assembly, I think, this week is going to be on the theme of Epiphany. Epiphany, this is how to spell Epiphany. So that's a strange word, isn't it? Epiphany. Now, Epiphany means showing. It means taking something out that was hidden and revealing something that you couldn't see before. So it literally means showing someone something. But Epiphany is actually the story of the three wise men who visited Jesus after the shepherds. So I'm going to tell the story of the three wise men and then just say a little bit about what it means and see how we can understand why we use that word epiphany to describe the story of the three wise men. So Epiphany, the story of the three wise men, traditionally takes place on the 6th of January, which is 12 days after Christmas, and that is called Twelfth Night. So 12 days after Christmas, you might know the Christmas carol, the 12 days of Christmas, which you'll be very relieved that I'm not going to try to sing to you now, but you might know that for yourself. 5 gold rings, and that talks about it's the 12 days after Christmas, finishing on the 6th of January, which is traditionally called Twelfth Night. Now, until after the medieval church, so until the time of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I and the Tudors, Twelfth Night was actually a more important feast for Christians, for the church, than Christmas was. That's changed somewhat over the years, but it's still an important day, Epiphany, the 6th of January, 12 days after Christmas, or Twelfth Night. Well, I said it's about the three wise men. That's traditionally when they came to visit Jesus. One thing to say is that it was probably not just 12 days after Jesus was born, because the Bible tells us that Joseph and Mary had moved out of the stable and into a house by this point. So it took place really some time afterwards, but no one knows when. But the story goes that the term is Magi, M-A-G-I. That's what the three wise men are called in the Bible. Now, the story only occurs in Matthew's Gospel, and it doesn't say three wise men, it just says wise men are Magi from the east. They came from the east, saw a star in the sky, and they knew that this star was telling them that something important was happening. So they journeyed from wherever it was in the east they came from. No one knows where that was. And they followed the star all the way to Israel. Now, the star stopped, first of all, over the palace of the king of Israel, who the wise men went to see, because they thought if this star was telling them something important, he would know about it. So this was their first mistake, because King Herod was a very jealous, a very frightened, you might also say paranoid king, and any form of threat or rivalry or opposition to him, he clamped down on very, very hard indeed. But he pretended to be interested, because what he wanted to do really is find out more about this new king, or what he thought was a king, that the wise men had come to see. So he consulted all his advisors and professors and priests and anybody that knew anything at all about what this star meant. And they told him that the new king was to be born in Bethlehem, in the part of Israel called Judea, because that was the city of the most famous of the Jewish kings in the long time before Herod, called King David, and any new great king would be born in that place. So he said to the wise men, please go and find this new king, and then come back to me and tell me where exactly he is, so that I too can then go and worship him like you. Well, the wise men, I think, were probably a little bit suspicious of that to begin with, because Herod didn't want to go and worship this new king. He basically wanted to get rid of him. But he sent the wise men off because he thought they would find out exactly where the king was to be born. And the star came back, and the wise men followed the star, and it stopped over a stable. Over the stable where Jesus was born, but in that Jesus and his family had been moved into the house. So the wise men came, and they met Joseph and Mary, and they saw Jesus, and they gave 3 presents. Now these are important because they each mean something, they each stand for something. They gave him gold and frankincense and myrrh. And I'll talk a little bit about what these mean in a little while. But they gave those 3 presents to Joseph and Mary for Jesus. And then, being warned by their own intuition, by their own intelligence, and it says in a dream as well, they travelled back to their own country in the east without going to see King Herod. The Bible says, by another way. Now, when King Herod heard all about this, he was not pleased one little bit. And Joseph and Mary realised that Jesus was in great danger. So they took Jesus right out of the country of Israel, and they took him to Egypt, and kept him safe there. And they kept him safe there until they'd heard that King Herod had died, and Jesus wasn't in danger from him anymore. And then they returned back to their home of Nazareth. So that's the story of the 3 kings. Now, the 3 wise men. Some people call them 3 kings, some people call them 3 wise men. The Bible doesn't actually say that there were 3 of them. People only say that because of the 3 presents that they gave. Those presents say something about Jesus. Gold was the decoration, the badge, the money of kings, of royalty, of rulers. So this is saying that gold, so you can see gold on my wedding ring there, so that's what gold looks like. Gold was saying that Jesus was in some sense a king. Now, what kind of king he was going to be, people found out much later when he'd grown up and when he taught and showed people how his kind of being a king was very different from how they imagined it. But nevertheless, they said that he's a king, descendant of King David. Frankincense is a form of kind of charcoal that some churches still use today, many churches around here, particularly Catholic churches, and it burns and it gives off a kind of lovely sweet scent, like a maybe sort of a scented candle that some of your mums and dads might have at home. It gives off a kind of smoky sweetness that fills the air, and that was used in religious services, and it was used particularly to show that a priest was there. So this frankincense is saying that Jesus was a priest. Now, myrrh is very interesting because myrrh was used only really to kind of prepare dead people for burial. And this is saying really that Jesus's death will be important, which it is, and so's the resurrection afterwards, and we celebrate that at Easter. So if Christmas is like the start of the story, this myrrh is pointing to the end of the story, Jesus' death and resurrection. So those 3 presents are part of what we mean when we say Epiphany. When we say Epiphany, because that is showing, those 3 presents are showing Jesus as a king, as a priest. He's a very important person to show us and to teach us all about God, and that he's also going to come to the end of the story, and that's going to be important as well. That's what that mare's pointing to. So they're showing us all of these things. It's also showing us that the wise men coming from the east were not part of Jesus's country or religion or culture or people. They were people from a completely different place. So it's showing us also that Jesus isn't just for the people he was born in and with in Egypt. He's for everybody over the whole world, which means he's for you and for me. And Jesus is then being shown to be for absolutely everyone. So this word, Epiphany, means that this visit and the presence and the place that the people came from shows us something very important about God. And Epiphany, the 6th of January, is also an important date for me because it's the day on which our first child, our first, well, she's a big girl now, a big grown-up girl, but when she was born, our first child, she was born on the 6th of January. And the thing is, at the beginning of the day, we didn't think that she was going to be born on that day because a date that we were told she was going to be born was just a couple of weeks into the future. But during the day, it became clear that she was on her way. And we had finished the day on the 6th of January with our new baby, our first baby. And that shows us an incredible amount of things which we didn't know beforehand. So Epiphany, for me personally, is an important date, and is all part of this showing of things that we didn't know before. So now, I usually finish these talks with a little 5-question quiz to just check how well you've been listening to some of the details in this story, and today's no different. So if you have something ready now to write with, or you'd like to pause, if your teacher wants to pause the video and let you get something to write with, you can do that now. And I'll carry on now with the Epiphany 5-question quiz. Question number 1. Where did the wise men come from? Where did the wise men come from? Question 2. Over whose palace did the star stop first? Over whose palace did the star stop first? Question 3. What did the present of gold tell us about Jesus? What did the present of gold tell us about Jesus? Question 4. What did the present of frankincense tell us about Jesus? What does the present of frankincense tell us about Jesus? And question 5. Where did Joseph and Mary take Jesus to keep him safe from King Herod? Where did Joseph and Mary take Jesus to keep him safe from King Herod? Right, so those are the questions. So here's the answers. Question 1, the East. The wise men came from the East. Question 2, Herod's. The palace belonged to King Herod that the wise men visited first and the star stopped. Question 3, he's a king. The present of gold tells us that Jesus is in some sense a king. Question 4, that he's a priest. The frankincense tells us that Jesus was a priest. And question 5, Egypt. Egypt was the place that Mary and Joseph took Jesus to keep him safe from King Herod. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed hearing all about this Feast of Epiphany and learning about the wise men and the visit to Jesus. Thank you once again for asking me to take this worship. I look forward to the next time that I can take the worship, or maybe even be with you one day soon. Okay, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy Epiphany. Bye.